I really want to share some of my own thoughts on empowering women in the workplace. I started my career journey on the shop floor, and throughout all of that there have been a number of women that have played a really key part in my professional journey. I hope today is an opportunity for you to celebrate your own success and to be inspired to champion and support women at work at the University of Sunderland. So I think in terms of what we're trying to achieve with International Women's Day, it has to be an everyday event. Certainly the pace of change is slow enough as it is, so we need to keep that going through every day of our working lives. But I think it's also important to have an annual celebration. It's good for women around the world to kind of pause and look at what we've achieved and celebrate that, and then take stock and work out what we need to move on to do next. So to me, economic empowerment is a real umbrella objective. I think if we're achieving that, it's the ultimate freedom to choose how we're living our own lives as individuals, but also how we are spending resources and making investments. So quite a big ambition. I think education is such a big part of it, so a great one to be focusing on at the University of Sunderland. And certainly we can all make progress and move this forward by kind of supporting each other, making sure we are sharing resources and educating each other on financial literacy and everything that gets us to ultimately be in the position of making decisions. This is an area where women can really come together and share and pool their knowledge and resources to help educate each other. So one of the really important women in my life was my nana, my maternal grandmother, and she was still around when I was 12. And she used to talk to me quite a lot about how I was capable and how I was clever and would be able to do whatever I wanted to do. And I think when we think about the impact we can have on young people, I wouldn't change that advice. There's nothing that can really impact somebody's potential more and their ability to achieve their potential than building their confidence and telling them what they're capable of. So I have definitely suffered from imposter syndrome. Yeah, probably the time when I felt it the most was kind of midway through my career, when I started to be successful and move through the levels at speed. And that left me feeling sometimes like I was the person in the room who definitely knew the least and had the least experience. And in that position, it's really easy to doubt yourself. So I think my advice would be to pay attention to what you're experiencing. I think if you can remove yourself a little bit from the situation, recognise that it's imposter syndrome that everybody suffers from at some point. You can be a bit more objective then about the situation. And the other thing is listen to the self-talk in your head. If you're starting to get really negative and talk yourself down, think instead about how you would talk to a friend who you're trying to support and encourage, and you can definitely work your way through it. So at Bravissimo we have had diversity and inclusion groups and forums and actions for years now, and it was going well, but we did find that on occasion groups that were being focused on and highlighted, it was absolutely great and really positive for them, but it can have the opposite impact if your group or your particular situation isn't represented in those conversations. So we moved things on from looking purely at diversity and inclusion to focusing on belonging and creating a culture and an organisation that everyone feels they can belong. So I'm really proud that we've got a culture where you can really bring yourself to work. There's no kind of certain way of being, certain character or personality type. Or leadership style. We really appreciate everyone's individual styles and strengths and what they bring, and it really does bring out the best in people. So I think a lot of the narrative around disability tends to be around challenges and things being difficult and making accommodations and allowances for those things. What gets talked about a lot less is the fact that people who face those challenges often have faced them their entire lives, are absolutely used to overcoming those challenges, solving problems, putting that extra kind of creativity around things to make them happen. And so much of that, you know, the resilience that builds, the confidence it builds when you find that you can do things that maybe you thought were a real challenge. They're all leadership skills. So I think it would be great to talk around the advantages that gives people who are aspiring to be leaders, rather than perhaps thinking of disabled people as being at a disadvantage.